Camp season is upon us. Praise be. We're going to the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, and we're going to see some football today from the Ohio State Buckeyes. That is Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward, and it's the podcast daily for the start of training camp. That means we got to start making some bold P's. So, Berm, you said you've already been doing it. I don't know where you've been posting these bold predictions, but would you like to share some with the rest of the class?
No. I like to keep mine private. I think it's important that we all maintain a sense of autonomy and individuality. And
it'll make for a good podcast.
Like to make sure that my my bold predictions. Yeah, I think that the more I keep them to myself, the more I can proclaim I was right about them, no matter what happens.
It's not the way that works. The only way to claim the crown, which I still possess, is by making them publicly.
All right, fine. So I'll just harken back to Monday's or Tuesday's conversation at Roosters. I think that by this time next week, so Thursday of next week, so that'd be August 8th, that Ryan Day will have announced his starting quarterback.
I was going to have a separate lightning round session for what day we thought the starting quarterback was going to be named. You want to jump right into it?
Oh, you should have probably told me that ahead of time.
No. Well, that I do have to keep private because we don't share scripts for the show. Or make them.
I think that much is evident to people who watch us every day.
That's true. Okay, so 1 week from today.
That's good. Yeah,
August
spicy.
8th. Okay. Bill, do you have over or under August 8th?
That's a good date. So under would be later. Over. Which one? What over or under? Which one's later?
But under is before.
Okay, got it.
I would think that over would be before.
You don't make the rules here.
Doesn't matter.
But he agreed.
Right,
Never mind.
I don't know how to gamble. So.
The 8th would be an interesting day to do it because that is the day that Big Ten Network is in town. That is the day that we will have a full practice to watch. And I wonder if, which would present a nice stage to announce it, but I wonder if Ryan Day wants that kind of stage to announce it. So I might say later than that, which I guess over. Maybe whichever time the next time we talk to Ryan Day is after August 8th, I think will be when he names a starting quarterback, which would still be probably about a week or so earlier than he has done it in the past.
Yeah.
But he's not going to hide the quarterbacks on the 8th from Big Ten TV cameras, do you think, like he did in 2022, right?
I was going to say, he's done it before.
That was a maintenance day.
I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's right. The first day of camp, maintenance day. Forgot.
No, he could. Because, the other thing that's at play is he said they want to do the split field stuff for the first 4 practices, which are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're off Monday. And then he said when they get back on the practice field, they want to start paring down those quarterback reps. So by that Thursday, which they'll have 3 practices, or that will be the 3rd practice, since that sort of line in the sand that he told us, the quarterback reps should look different. So he's going to get asked about it. So that could be the day. It's not a bad day, Berm. I don't hate the pick.
I think that Ryan Day and Ohio State will carry that through the first scrimmage, which is usually that following Saturday after they open. Not always, but seems to be a loose. At some point, there's going to be an opening scrimmage. I think it'll be the weekend after camp opens, after a full week of camp. So that would be after August 8th. And that would give Will Howard and Devin Brown potentially one more crack at a competition carrying it through. And if one does something to surprise the other, then maybe that could change the timeline. But I think the way that this is working out, because we're going to be at practice today, Thursday, and tomorrow, Friday. We will not be there. Fans can go on Saturday and Sunday, but the media will not be there for those practices, which I hope just means that it's a trade for something around August 15th. Which would be a nice day for Ryan Day to be giving updates at the midway point of camp, in which case he could maybe definitively name a starter on that date. That is my anticipation. I'm going to say specifically the 15th of August.
There is an availability that day, right? We were told perhaps a practice that week, but there is an odd head coach coordinator availability that week. That could be the date as well. Both of you guys, I think you're both sniffing around it, which might mean that Ryan Day pushes it back further to keep us off the scent entirely. He's going to do it on August 29th.
So Bill's taking the way over. Okay. He didn't even want to go Price is Right rules and take the 16th.
The 16th, yeah.
Yeah. Which would have been a smart approach.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we just dove right in with the quarterbacks. Berm, do you have a non-quarterback bold prediction for camp?
That we will see a battle for right guard between Carson Hinsman and Tegra Shabola.
You used to be better at this.
Spicy.
Nailed it. No, I think BP, true BP, is this team has so few questions right now. It's very hard to to really know what a bold prediction for camp is. Like, what Nick McClarty's going to be the punter? I mean, what is the?
I actually don't think he's going to be the punter. That was going to be my bold prediction.
They did bring in an experienced transfer,
Tony V from Buffalo.
That's right.
But what is a bold prediction for camp? I mean, we're not seeing, statistics. There's not a lot of question marks on the team as far as who's starting. Sonny Styles will be the starter next to Cody Simon. I mean, I don't, is that bold?
That's a bold P. Yeah.
It's bold. Yeah. Qualifies.
Okay. All right, fine.
Put yourself out there, bro. Be vulnerable. It's okay.
But I just don't think we're going to have the answers to there are so few questions, and the questions that we have, we're not going to really have answers to during camp. We're not going to have the answers for them till like the week of the Akron game.
If you pick someone to win a starting job in camp and they start against Akron, guess what? We'll know the answer. Do you know? You've done this before. We've been doing this for 5 years.
Let's just play that game. Let's play that game. Let's just play. Who's the starter at right guard on three? Everyone. 1, 2, 3. Carson Hinsman.
Tegra.
Okay.
Shabola.
Who's the starter?
Bill didn't answer.
Tegra Shabola.
That's 2 votes for Tegra.
I'm outvoted. Okay. Okay. So who's starting next to Cody Simon? Sonny Styles.
Yeah.
Sonny Styles.
Okay. Is that all the question marks?
Tight end.
I have a bold tight end.
Let's do it.
Okay. I think Jelani's going to do it. I think he's going to break out in this camp. I think he will rise to the front of the line by the end of camp and be TE1 for this team.
Starting against Akron. Okay.
That is bold.
Yeah. I can't help it, man. Yeah. I mean, it's probably smart to do that. He's just a freak, man. Like, I don't know. There are enough questions there, I think, about everybody in that room that, I'll boldly predict that the guy with the most athletic upside will be the one who wins the job. It would run like counter to, I think, a lot of what we've seen from guys at that position to earn a starting job, or even if he's not starting, to earn a regular rotation, playing a lot of meaningful snaps kind of role as a true sophomore, having only played, I think, 5 games last year. At least a tight end. So it is bold and probably likely to be wrong, but it is hard. Like, you look around the roster, where are there opportunities for guys that, and not that Jelani's coming out of nowhere because we talk about him a lot, but kind of come off the radar a little bit and elevate themselves to something more important than I think might have been anticipated for them in the offseason. Tight end is a spot that's kind of ripe for that. So I'll roll with Jelani and say he does it.
Okay.
I wanted to be more conservative and right at tight end. So I'm taking Will Kazmarek to be the starting tight end for Ohio State because of the blocking ability. Impressed, I've mentioned several times, especially when Bill and I, when we were going through spring rewinds and state of the position, like, the work ethic tells me that suggests to me that he's going to be able to get there. He was putting in more work than almost anybody on the team, Will Kazmarek, throughout spring. So if some of that transition of having to compete against Big Ten caliber, best defense in the country athletes every single day took a bit of time in the spring, I think he was trying to zip through that learning curve. And I think that now, with that under his belt, a full summer, and then now this month ahead of him in August, I think that he will show why Ohio State wanted him and why they were so impressed with his film, and he will inevitably, in my opinion, grab that job.
I mean, if we're just going to talk tight end for a moment, then I'm going to make another one that says G. Scott will be tight end number 1. But the real bold prediction here is that I think G. Scott is going to be named a captain of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Okay.
How's that for bold? Put that in your bold pipe and smoke it.
That is bold because, and not anything specific to G, but just because there are so many candidates on this team.
But also specifically to G, because 2 years ago, that's not a conversation I could have ever imagined or a sentence I could have ever imagined uttering.
Right.
Yeah.
How many captains do you think they will name?
See, that's the big question. I'm going to go with 4. 2 on offense, 2 on defense.
How many
So
did they
that
have
would
last
be-
year?
Last year was just 3,
Just
right?
did 3,
They
right?
cut it.
Yeah.
They cut it down to 3, which is the approach I like. I think 4 is a good number. I was surprised that they went all the way to 3. The years that Urban was having like 8 captains, I thought was ridiculous and not an encouraging sign for the leadership group of that team.
Yeah. I think so. Last year, it kind of broke down. It was like offense, defense, and if you considered Xavier Johnson special teams, it kind of made sense that way. I think it's like if you want to do it that way, like I think Emeka is probably the offensive candidate, but there's so many defensive guys that I don't know how you would choose just 1 or even 2. So I think there'll probably be 5 captains on this team, and like well earned, not a reflection of we don't actually know who's captain material, so let's just pick a bunch of them. I think whoever gets picked will perform that role to its maximum capabilities.
Well, who are your 5, Bill?
Emeka, Denzel. I think those 2 are definites. Cody Simon, I think, is a definite. That's 3. Then I would probably go. G Scott's actually not a bad pick. Jack Sawyer, and probably need another one on offense. Travion
Henderson.
Yeah.
Berm, who's the rest of your captain group?
My 4 are Will Howard, G. Scott, Jack Sawyer, and Cody Simon.
Okay.
Although Lathan, I'm having a tough time not putting Lathan in there, but I'm going to go with Jack and Cody.
I think Bill's right. This group probably needs to be larger than 4, especially if you want to have 2 on offense, which would be Emeka Ibuka and Donovan Jackson, and then Jack Sawyer, Cody Simon, and Denzel Burke get you to 5 with 3 on defense, which this is a defense-led program now. So
yeah,
you got to have a stronger representation there. And I don't know how you can make it like it's hard for him. Like you guys both brought up other guys who are not involved here to imagine that like Lathan Ransom is not officially a captain for this team or GT Tuimoloau. Since the last, 16, 18 months, Tyleik Williams has been somebody who's been very outspoken and vocal and a good leader for Ohio State. Josh Fryer would be in a similar boat. Travion. Like this isn't a situation where like it would, and Bill, you said this, that Ohio State is like having a problem that they can't narrow down the list. That's when you have this many veterans, that leadership core is much larger. So that's going to be a fascinating vote, just as it will be for the Block O.
Yeah. Will Howard be a heck of a pick because was CJ Stroud a captain?
No, but he was never a senior,
right?
And that was always sort of it was never like you have to be a senior, but it was sort of a.
So has the quarterback not been a captain then since JT?
I thought Justin was a captain.
Yeah, I thought so too. I couldn't remember in 2020. I guess he probably was. Yeah,
he was the Big Ten's captain.
That's a good point too. Berm, who's going to wear the Block O?
Well, see, a week ago, I bet 10 TV's Adam King $1.49 that it was going to be Jack Sawyer. And then what? I just want to put that bet up.
Well, you don't pay your debts anyway, so it won't matter.
Not to you. But $1.49 was the thought process that I couldn't see how it couldn't be Jack. And then we talked to Denzel and Emeka at Media Days, and they both said Cody Simon, and that completely changed my thinking. And maybe I've been, letting the fact that Jack Sawyer is an Ohio kid dictate my thinking. And so I'm going to go with Cody Simon because that's who the guys on the team said. So if that's who they're saying, then I feel it'd be silly not to. And I'll just pay Adam King and 149 pennies.
No, you won't. You'll never pay.
That's true. I'll buy him a coffee that he can spill on you inside of the Woody.
That sounds more accurate for what we're talking about here. Bill, who do you think's getting the block O?
Yeah, I guess I would say Cody Simon too. That the player endorsement seems rather strong. I would have assumed Jack Sawyer as well before Big Ten Media Days. Maybe Denzel Burke. I don't mean to just come off the wrong way. Like, strikes me as somebody maybe who wouldn't want the block O.
He doesn't.
Yeah, which is like totally fine.
He said he wouldn't wear it because he doesn't want to change numbers again. That's what he said.
You don't have to wear it, right? Like, you can put the patch on your jersey if you don't want to wear it. I would imagine it's Cody Simon. Yeah, with everything that's been said. So that's my pick.
I still think Jack's going to get it. Maybe they just didn't want to talk about it publicly in front of him in Indianapolis last week. It's not. Jack Sawyer's getting enough attention. Let's talk about somebody who's not here. That's what I'm grasping at. Because Jack Sawyer just checks every box that I'm aware of in the consideration for this. It's got to be him for me.
He would make the most sense, I think. Although Cody Simon's a really good leader. He's got pretty good perspective too with some of the ups and downs in his career. So, and plus he's like kind of the heartbeat of the defense given his position. So there's a lot of things that make sense for Cody too. But yeah, the way the offseason went, I think a lot of signs pointed toward Jack. So I don't know. Flip a coin, I guess. It's got to be one of those two, right? I don't know who else it could be besides one of those two.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some talk about like Court Williams or someone like that if you're going for like an inspirational pick. But Lathan's a guy that I think could be in that discussion with everything he's gone through and to coming back. But it seems like Cody Simon and Jack are like the heartbeat of the defense. And I definitely was not thinking about Cody Simon in that way until a week ago. And now I figure that it seems pretty clear I was overlooking him.
Mm-hmm. Berm, this is not a bold P. We were talking about this a little bit on Tuesday at Roosters. Like the most anticipation, I think. I'm going to speak for myself. This is the most excited I've ever been for an offseason to be over. I'm ready for football to cover. But I think about, like, I'm always excited for the first day of camp and to go out there and like get ready to start a new journey covering a team. But I've just the sense about the expectations for this team, like the way that the fan base is excited about what could happen, the anticipation of it. This feels like, Bill, you've been around for 10 years. Berm, you've been following this team your whole life. This will be the 12th camp I've covered. I think that this is the most anticipated camp that has happened in my time covering Ohio State. Do you agree with that?
I think the 2015 camp was probably more like anticipated because they just won a national championship and returned everyone. And the expectation was that it's going to be not just like a great Ohio State team, but an all-time great college football team. And with the quarterback battle and all that stuff, I think that probably was more anticipated. I would say that this one is a combination of anxiety and anticipation unlike any other, because there is a fairly large segment of the fan base that is like on pins and needles about every little thing that happens to the point where if one thing starts to go poorly or doesn't look right or the quarterback situation isn't cleared up in 2 weeks, that people are just going to freak out and it's not going to be pretty. So I think it's on that fine line between anticipation and anxiety that I believe will drive some people to drinking.
Some people,
a lot of people. No, not me. I think that. I mean, this is going to be a super long season. Like, if you're too worried about things not looking exactly right in August, it's going to lead you to some problems because there are going to be ups and downs in this season. And it as good as Ohio State should be, like, I don't know that anyone should realistically expect that this team goes undefeated. Like that's not normal in college football. So, every year you maybe have 1 out of 132 teams that go undefeated. So it's not easy to do. In some years you have none. So, and I think as the college football playoff expands, we're going to have fewer and fewer teams that win a national championship undefeated. So Anxious, excited, all those things are certainly real, but I would go with 2015 as far as the most just like, holy crap, it's back.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that there were like rock stars on the 2015 team, just like a collection of some of the most famous people in the sport. And then the quarterback battle on top of that. I don't know that that'll ever be topped, but this would be second, I think. And like the anticipation for this camp is different than the anticipation for that camp. So I guess depending on how you would want to couch it, you can make an argument for this one. There's going to be a ton of eyeballs on this camp. More. Ohio State always has a lot, but I think more than it typically has. And there's enough curiosity with Will Howard, I think, with trying to figure out the offensive line. With some of the other transfers that have come into the program, that people are sort of excited to see how they fit in. So there's a lot going on here. So I would still put up 2015, but this is, I think, a very close second to that.
Austin, let me ask you this. In terms of anticipation and excitement, do you expect that any players will show up on Monday when the Buckeyes check into their hotel with a film crew of their own?
Well, they're actually like kind of allowed to do that now, right? That was against the rules for someone to be having a documentary crew when they showed up in 2015, whoever that might have been.
Oh, who did that?
Hypothetically.
A hypothetical example.
You can't have drones following you around, or I guess you can. You can now.
I mean, you can.
No,
I'm just not sure why you want to.
You guys make a very good point about the nature of that roster, the star power, the quarterback battle. Can't argue against any of that. The only reason that I put 2015 in a different category as this one is like I would think that Ohio State fans were content with that offseason going on forever because they had just won the national championship. They were on top of the sport. There was no like angst or some of that anxiety that you're talking about, Berm. Like they had already been to the mountaintop, and the longer that they went without a game, the longer that you just got to celebrate. No one could take any bragging rights from them. This offseason, there's been a ton of stuff that was going on leading up through spring camp. It was a quiet summer. We made that point, knocked on wood, and it stayed that way up to the start of training camp. But like, I don't know how many times, Berm, have you been asked, like, is Ohio State going to beat Michigan this year? Like, this has gone on too long. Is Ryan Day going to be fired if he doesn't beat Michigan this year? Like, that's happened almost every single day. And that has made it feel like this offseason has been 10 years long for me.
Yeah, but that's why I say I don't know that anticipation, I think the word implies like unbridled excitement. And I don't know that that's what I would consider this offseason for fans. I think that there is a tempered enthusiasm, but underneath it is this like fear of what if this goes wrong.
Right.
And, after the last couple of years, you think about like the CJ Stroud era at Ohio State, which will there's never going to be a player in Ohio State history that is revered more after he leaves than CJ Stroud by people who hated his guts when he was in Columbus. But this team has the weight of those teams on their shoulders as well. It's not just their own expectations. It's but you had 17 first round picks in CJ Stroud and you couldn't beat Michigan. So this team has so much more on their backs that it's hard to consider it anticipation. Just so I guess I'm playing semantics, but
no, I understand.
Let me get this back to a bold predictions show if I can.
Okay.
Which freshman that we did not see much of, or even if we did throughout spring, will be the talk of this camp by the time the end of August happens? Who are we going to be like, oh, but we got to pay attention to this dude?
That will be Mylan Graham.
Did you see the pictures of him on Instagram by any chance?
I don't have Instagram.
They're available on Twitter. I've seen them. Like the 2 months that he's put in the weight room at Ohio State since he got there at the end of May have been productive.
Well, I saw him at workouts in June, and he looked pretty athletic even then. So
he's rocking that 5. He's looking a lot like Garrett Wilson. I'm telling you, it's kind of creepy.
Well, you're not doing anything to change my mind, Berm, because now I'm just going to drill down on that bold P. And at receiver, it's easier, right? And it's also a spot where there may be opportunity. So that feels like maybe a Marvin-ish kind of camp where on the microphone, we just keep hearing touchdown, Mylan Graham, winner, loser.
Yeah, you're probably right. Ian Moore. Ian Moore is going to work his way into the 2 deep in this camp.
I like that. I like that a lot. I was going to go with more conversation about Aaron Scott. I think that it's a position that maybe there isn't a path to a lot of playing time, but I think that just from a purely physical standpoint and what Ohio State wants out of its corners, Aaron Scott checks all the boxes. And yes, he's got to worry about playing time behind Denzel Burke and Davis Nigmanosin and Jordan Hancock and Jermaine Matthews. But I really do think that there's enough of an opportunity there for Aaron to see reps, and I think he's going to take a lot of advantage of them in this part of the calendar, especially because he's a guy that was there. And, unlike Bryce West, who was not able to participate in the spring because of injury, Miles Lockhart being a slot guy is not really something that we're going to talk a lot about because there's so many guys in front of him. Aaron Scott, I think, will be discussed way more heavily than he has been. But on offense, I agree. I think it's going to be Mylan Graham. And my BP was that I think he was going to end up pushing Bryson Rogers as wide receiver 5 on this roster by the Akron game.
Well, that process begins today at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We cannot wait to get out there to cover that for you all on the podcast throughout the month. It's going to be awesome. We'll get as much as we can out of the next 2 days watching it. And then we have interviews scheduled throughout the month in the build up to the opener on the 31st. So it won't be long. We'll be right back here on the podcast talking to you about what we saw on day 1 of training camp for the Ohio State Buckeyes. For Bill and Berm, I'm Austin. We will talk to you later.